Hey, it's Enrico Palazzo!
Utah, give me 2.
Palazzo!
Utah, give me 2.
And you thought you could get away with a Monday evening without me or Gentle Ben. But no, we are here celebrating the last installment this season of the Prospects Power Hour. We're with the Palazzo Podcast, 2 L's, 2 Z's. Hitting you live is my man, Big Ben Chase, next to me. Why don't you say hi to the people? Give a greeting.
Hello, people. Greetings.
Life has gotten kind of in the way of us today, so apologies for starting a minute or two late, but we are ready. It's just going to be the two of us tonight. Robbie is up herding moose in Canada. He's been seen in the central plains of Ontario, lassoing them and really just, living his best life up there. Evidently, he's a moose hunter. I didn't even know that. He's not.
He's not. Robbie is doing this whole chef thing. My job darn near had me late. It's just kind of one of those things. Such is life. That's what happens. But hey, good news here, Sam.
What's the good news?
Our local high school won the Class AA, which is the large school in South Dakota, basketball championship over the weekend.
Okay.
And that includes my nephew, who is one of the starters on the team.
Whoop, whoop.
So that is why we're a little bit late, part of why, but they got recognized at the city commission meeting tonight, which I'm sure is probably the first and last that most of those kids will ever attend a city commission meeting, but at least they were there for one. So,
I like that. I like that a lot. Real quick to get all the business out of the way. If this is your first time here, we are bozos. I mean, we are here to entertain and educate you about baseball, fantasy baseball, and just life in general. I mean, we've got beard power going on, so there's no way that if you pay attention, you won't get effused with some wisdom bits and knowledge just dripping all over. So make sure that if you like what we're doing, give us a 5-star rating on whatever source that you watch us or listen to us on. And if you're here on the YouTube channel, subscribe, give us 5 stars, hook us up. If we ever do anything you don't like, don't go to the internet to bitch about it. Like, come and talk to us directly. We love hearing from people, good and bad. So, just let us have it. We're probably not going to do a whole lot of changing because we're generally pretty good dudes, and this is an opinion-based thing. Like we're trying to predict the future. We're trying to not be Nostradamus like most people are. So hopefully when you come here, you are entertained, you get some knowledge, and shit, man, you get to look at two of the most handsome people on the internet. I mean, look at least this.
Two of the best beards anyway,
No, I'm not going to let you limit yourself. Ben, you are one sex. Not my type, but I can tell. Game recognizes game, brother. Like, you look good. So don't let anybody tell you different. So it has been a crazy couple weeks. This has been like the draft season started for some people in November, and then some people waited for the clock to turn January, and we got a lot of draft and holds and stuff, and then middle of February, Fab League started drafting, and we started getting ADPs and all that kind of stuff. But the last couple of weeks, this has been when home leagues are getting in. This is when any straggling FYPDs for dynasty leagues are getting in. This is, tout and happened for Brett and I a couple weekends ago. We've had a ton of mains happening in Atlantic City and Las Vegas and on the internet. Ben, do you have any more drafts during this season? And if you don't, what was the one draft that you enjoyed the most this year? Like, what did you do for our hobby, our sport?
I am going to go with, I can answer both. I do have one that is still ongoing, but it's an ESPN points league that we started initially through the Discord server. Just for reference, out of I think there's 14 teams in this league. And out of those 14 teams right now, 11 are on auto pick. So that's not a great sign. Yeah. So that part is kind of a pain in the butt. But no, I had some, I been trimming back my leagues simply because life is just that doesn't really allow for that. But one of the leagues that I always enjoy doing is the TGFBI, and I'm really happy with my draft in that league this year. I started from, I have to go back and look, but I think like the third or fourth position, and I got Bobby Witt as my first pick, which that's always a nice start. Yep. I just really enjoyed the depth, like all the way down. I got like Mick Abel late. I got Jordan Westberg as my second to last pick. And so, he comes back healthy at all anytime soon. That's a nice bit of depth for your third base position, second base position. There's just, it's one of those teams that, now what I will say is if this was a draft and hold, I would love this team on a league where there's fab every week. It's a pretty solid team. It's not a holy shit team, but it's a team that I think I can roll with going into the year, and we'll see where we go from there.
Yeah, I was looking at one of my, I think I was only in one draft and hold this year. And I've got 8 or 9 pitchers already on the IL.
Isn't that just, I hate it when that happens. And then one of the folks in our chat already mentioned Lodolo, who came out with a blister today and is likely going to end up on the IL. But that actually brings us to our first point of news, that one of our favorite guys on this, well, actually 2 of our favorite guys on this podcast, Didier Fuentes, who we talked about during the Braves time, was already announced that he was going to make the Braves roster. But Robbie's big time favorite, Jose Suarez, will now have a rotation spot because Spencer Strider is going to start the year on the My Finger Hurts list. And what I do think is interesting here, Fuentes is already on the 40-man, and Fuentes has plenty of options left. But he also is he worked on his slider a lot this offseason. If anyone noticed, he also won today's game too. He's just been absolutely freaking dominant this spring. And that comes back to he reshaped his slider. And so now he's working in a lot of the same modality as what Spencer Strider does. He's 6 foot. He has a 90s, upper 90s fastball that kind of stays up in the zone without, a whole lot of movement, which is tough for hitters to pick up. And then he's now coming at that with a slider that has really sharp movement late. And that's generated a ton of swing and miss. The changeup is just kind of there, but it does generate some ground balls. I could 100% see Bryce Elder falling on his face, most likely, or Jose Suarez falling on his face a little bit,
Robbie,
and Fuentes moving into that for within the first month here.
What is the deal with the love for Jose Suarez? Like, I'm just going to push back. Anybody that touches
Robbie's other big guy is Brent Honeywell. So I mean, Robbie finds a reason to love a certain guy, and then he just sticks on it, which respect for staying loyal. We all wish that our partners were that way. But the Jose Suarez love, I cannot tell you why. I was always as far as like the guys that kind of came up together, I always preferred Soriano over Suarez in that Angels as they were coming up together. And of course, then again, I think I'm forgetting the name of the guy, but I preferred another guy above both of them, and he completely flamed out. So, that just kind of says what it says. But
no, the whole problem starts with any pitcher that touches the Los Angeles Anaheim.
Yeah, unfortunately, you're not wrong.
It's no. As soon as Jose Suarez put on that uniform, you're like, man, it's not as bad, but it's pretty close to being like, oh, you're a pitcher for the Rockies? Maybe I should draft you. Wrong.
Which, by the way,
walk away.
Chase announced today, Chase Stolander starting the season in the bullpen. So I guess Rockies are going to Rocky. That's just stupid. Like, if you're not going to start him in the major leagues, send his butt down to AAA, let him get starts, or trade him to a team that'll actually use him, because that boy still has legit talent. I mean, outside of Colorado last year, he's like a 3.50 ERA guy with, like a 9.5 strikeout per inning, or strikeouts per 9. Hell of a rosterable starter, but inside of Coors, not at all. And that's exactly, I mean, I think a lot of people actually drafted Dollander as a late guy thinking that they could play those splits. Well, now he's going to be in the freaking bullpen.
And he's not going to close. I doubt that he's closer there. And even if
no.
It's just, so Robbie, I love you. You know that. But like, seriously, Jose Suarez, I know I'm going to hear it from you at some point, but So, okay.
But,
news and notes.
Give me a second here, Sam. I have earbuds going stupid. So we are going to technical difficulty this for 2 seconds.
So one of the other things that you need to do is really pay attention to all the moves that happen now and I'd probably say Thursday morning. There could be some things happening, and I'd go to MLB Trade Rumors or MLB's .com's transaction page. Like, there's going to be things more than likely that are going to happen. Other demotions, other people that get jobs, potentially even a trade here or there to make up for some of the things that have happened here in spring training. The Braves could go after another arm. Who knows? We never know. So just know that we know we're going to be looking there to also stay on top of things and just understand what's happening. So are you still technically difficulted?
No, I had to pull in the attached headphones that are attached to the microphone. So now I have headphones that are working and they don't require battery, because that was the issue. Is all of a sudden my headphones that should be charged told me that they were dying. And I'm like, I'm not going to play and just see whether or not that's true. We're just going to immediately make the change. Sam, this is our last 3x3.
I know. That's what I said. This is the finale.
Isn't it great? It's incredible that this is now, I believe, the 4th year that we've done it in this format. But I believe this is like the 6th year that I have done some sort of thing with the Palazzo podcast. I initially started with Phil Govier when he was our prospects guy. Then I kind of took over, and then we came to this format, the 3x3 format, and then Robbie joined me in the last couple of years. It's fun to get through all these systems. I can tell you there are systems we did in January that we would talk about differently already. But that is part of the prospecting thing. We have new information should always inform your decision. You should never, ever say, hey, look, this 19-year-old pitcher is what he will be at 29. No, that's who of us is the same as at 29 as we were at 19. Who of us is the same at 39 as we were at 29? That doesn't work in life. It absolutely doesn't work with athletes.
One of my favorite quotes, and I'm gonna just give you the Sam's version of the quote. I'm not gonna say it right, but Eisenhower, when he was a general over Europe and Africa, said, planning is everything. Plans are shit. And what he meant was you can stick to a plan, but if you get new information, you're going to change courses. You're going to change direction. And that's God, we talk about it all November when we get together at First Pitch. We can't wait.
Yeah.
We just got done with 7.5 months of actionable data, spring training, movement, off-season shit that correlates into 6 months plus of actual playing time. Like, we want to consume things, and that's what's happening now. We're getting these bits and pieces. And hey, Ben, you know what happens in 2 sleeps? You know what happens in 2 nights?
Well, for one, in 2 night 48 hours from now, we're going to be having our annual Bozo Fest, where we all get together, we make stupid predictions and sometimes make stupid bets, but more than anything, we have a hell of a lot of fun because, folks, that's what baseball should be. Baseball is nothing if not fun. And so, but it does I will bring up that next Monday, as we kind of typically do the first regular season pod of the year, we will be discussing who's got interesting assignments. Now, that could be who's made the major leagues. That could be, by then we will have information for upper minors assignments. It could be that somebody jumps A ball or high A and they're going straight to double A from A ball. That'd be impressive. Those types of things. Who knows, by then, Connor Griffin might have agreed to an 8-year contract and he's suddenly up with the Pirates and he's not going to AAA, because boy, are there a whole lot of shares of Connor Griffin on the waiver wire if you're in a redraft right now, which is just silly. But
I didn't touch him or JJ or McGonigal or just none of them.
I got McGonigal in a redraft league where there's an NA or a minor league slot, and I thought I got him and I got Justin Crawford and there's a pitcher that I got as well that all should be up this year. And I thought, what's that?
Kate Anderson for your late season couple starts?
No. I'm blanking on it right now. But regardless, it's a pitcher that I was like, okay, this guy's going to be up at some point, but he's going to start the year in the minors. I'm good with that. And but it's going to be an interesting thing, because if neither one of those guys is in the minors when the season starts, my roster is completely full. I've kind of been waiting for them to get one of them to get reassigned, which now it sounds like Justin Crawford is going to be on the major league team. And so it's just whether or not McGonigal is, because if McGonigal is, well, then I have suddenly a space for someone who's a minor leaguer and I can just straight up into that role. But I don't know if I want to roster two guys like that. I don't know that I want to. I mean, Crawford is going to be a hellacious speed guy. And this team, I need speed. So he's the type of guy where it's a Thursday and there's 3 games being played and one of them is the Phillies. I'll throw him into my lineup and hope that that's the day he decides to steal 2 bases. But otherwise, I got Willie Castro on that team. So I've got all the positions as far as a bench guy goes. And then it's just, if the only reason I'd keep McGonigal is just because in that particular league, Willie Castro is not eligible at short. And then I would definitely have all the bases covered. But I don't know. It'll be interesting. Maybe that league you keep 4 keepers and it's at the round that you drafted them at, improved by 1.
Mm-hmm.
So if you drafted him in the 4th, you keep him at the 3rd. I kept nobody before the 12th or 13th round this year, because I had a really rough year. I was going to be picking 2nd overall anyway, but I was picking 2nd overall with a hell of a lot of ability to stack the back end. I picked Byron Buxton with my last pick last year, so I get to keep him in that spot, which is pretty damn sweet.
Right.
I had Yuri and Brandon Woodruff, who were 18th round picks or something like that for me last year. So those are definite keepers. But the thing that was interesting to me is you get late in that draft. I mean, where I got McGonigal is probably about where I think he'd be worth it next year. So I don't know if he's really a keep for me, but if you trade him, he can still be kept by the team that acquires him. If he gets dropped and you pick him up during the season, he can't be kept.
Right. Okay.
So that's the rule in this league. So if I drop him, he's basically useless, but he's got some value right now. And so I got to hold on to him at least and see what I can get potentially out of him, because you and I both saw him down in Arizona. That boy was smoking baseballs, but he was also smoking baseballs against maybe 2 guys that'll see the major leagues on the mound this year.
Yeah, I was going to say I always take AFL numbers with a small grain of salt, because it's really a hitter's league. They're not there for pitching. And Brian Wu pitched there a couple of years ago. We got to see him in the fall league, but that's an exception, I think, to the rule of Arizona Fall League baseball. So do you have one name before we get into the rundown and everything? Do you have one name that you tried to not leave any draft without? Was there a player or 2 that you targeted all year?
At the back end of drafts, my guy and I missed him in a number of drafts because somebody would come along way too up on him. My guy was Carson Bench, and I think he is going to be a very high floor player for the Mets. I don't know that the big year is there this year, but this is a guy who should have a really strong average and doubles this year, and he is going to grow into a 25 home run guy who has good plate discipline, good pitch selection. That's going to be a really impressive guy to play with. But like I said, I see him as this year more of a high floor. I guess Stephen Kwan 2023 with 15 home runs. That's about what I saw him as, and that's a really valuable player. But a lot of people are drafting him as the hype that he has gotten, that hey, someday this could be a 25-30 home run hitter. Yeah, absolutely, someday. But this is also his second full season as a hitter, like where he's been a full-time hitter.
Yeah. And
he's going to be in the major leagues.
I do like Carson Bench. I have him in a couple leagues, and I think it makes it's more understandable why they moved Nimmo for Simeon.
Mm-hmm.
I think it when I think of Bench, I mean they're different batters, but I think that you have that high floor, decent average. It's gonna hit, gonna steal, gonna have counting.
And a much better defender.
Yeah,
than Nimmo has ever been.
He's gonna have regular time to play, and I don't think that Roster Resources had him batting ninth the last couple months as an NRI. He's gonna make the team. He's gonna play. He's going to start, I think, in right field. I don't think that they're gonna give him center field. That'll be Luis Robert Jr. I'm pretty sure will play center field for them.
But, until he's hurt, but
well, yeah. But you said Byron Buxton earlier. I'm trying to not speak.
I get it. Yeah.
So, but no, I'm excited for Carson Bench. Also, I just acquired him in a dynasty league. I picked him up earlier this year in a rookie draft for a 12-team keeper league I'm in. The name, and I'm a broken record, so the only reason I brought it up, this is my last chance to say, if you haven't acquired him already, you need to go out and find Cole Young. Cole Young is going to play. Ben was a year too early, but this is the year that he puts it all together. He's got the noodle working for him. He's got the muscle working for him. He's going to put his heart and his head together. Julio came up to him at the end of the Blue Jay series when they were cleaning out their lockers and they were going home. There was a little story in the paper, and they basically, Cole Young was like, yeah, Julio came up to me and said, I need to be stronger and faster and ready for the season, that I really wasn't ready to be a major leaguer here. And he took it to heart. I mean, it's March numbers. March numbers don't count for fucking shit. But like, that kid has been just raking all spring. And a couple nights ago against the Cleveland Guardians, he hit 2 home runs. The second home run he hit was 487 feet.
Yeah.
You can't
fake that.
You can't accidentally hit a ball almost 500 feet. So I have him rostered, and I think out of the 13 leagues I'm in, I think I have him in 10 places.
Yep.
He's finally my most rostered player, more than Michael Garcia, who I also have a huge
love him. Yeah.
But like Cole Young, do yourself a favor. Pick that kid up. He is hot. Just hot. So Carson Bench, Cole Young, those are 2 people to tag team at the end of your draft. Trade somebody. Trade some boring like Ian Happ. Somebody will take in a dynasty league. Somebody will take Ian Happ for Carson Bench. I'd much rather Carson Bench.
Yeah, 100%. But the thing, if you are in a redraft, I would almost bet that in a lot of 15-team redrafts, that can be about your 20th and 21st pick, which means you probably already have a second baseman, which means you probably already, if it's a 3-man outfield, you probably already have a full outfield. So now you're sitting on 2 guys that at worst, you toss them back because they ended up not producing.
Right.
But these guys, they're both, and even last year when he was struggling to a degree, Young was still a high floor sort of guy. He was not getting a ton of strikeouts. There's a lot of guys who, when they struggle in the majors, they strike out 30% of the time.
Plus, he was over 100 WRC plus for a long part of what he was doing. So, like,
He just wasn't giving you, as a fantasy owner, he wasn't giving you fantasy stats. And I don't know long term if Cole Young really ever will, but he's going to be a really valuable major leaguer that can give you 10 to 15, both homers and steals, and high batting average. I really think that, but man, the juice this spring might have me wrong. And I'm okay with that.
Yeah, right. No, and I would say, potentially in a 12-team league, I could see somebody having favorites at second base. Second base was a position I punted all draft season. I wanted the late picks of like a Gleyber Torres or a Jorge Polanco, just high floor, low cost players. Cole Young fits into that. So if you didn't want him, if you wanted somebody else, I totally get that. 15-team roto. A 15-team league, he needs to be rostered in all of the leagues. I've been calling him league winner like an asshole. League winner.
Yeah.
Just like I say, known Mariner playoff legend, Jorge Polanco. Who knows?
Yeah.
I might be a little too hypey on that, but just telling you, let's go. Mikey V.
Hey, Mikey V. Hey,
what's
Mikey.
happening?
On that note with Mikey, we should get ourselves into our teams tonight. And we have 2 teams I'm less than enthused to talk about. And one that I'm really excited to talk about. But poor Joe, I have not seen Joe check in with us. Joe Lowry is our resident Giants fan on the Discord and has been for many years now. Also very smart with baseball cards. If you're interested in baseball cards, talk to Joe. He knows his stuff. But I think, Sam, if you're good with it, I think we should start with the Giants. Because that is an organization we need to get done and out of here and not talk about again. Because it is not a pretty one at all. I will kick off and just say last year, because Robbie did leave us information, but he did not leave us his last year guys, unfortunately. But he gave us all of his this year picks, so that's a good deal.
Yeah, and I'm going to be playing the role of Robbie a lot. As fun as Robbie is, I'm going to be a lot less fun because he's going to be telling you all kind of things about it. And he throws with this arm ankle, and he grew up in Saskatchewan, and I really like him because he's a bean chewer. And I'm literally just going to tell you who it is, and I'm going to give you my dumb take on him. So it is.
Last year, I had what probably most people with the Giants had, because they were kind of the 3 only prospects the Giants had. Bryce Eldridge, Marco Luciano, and James Tibbs. This year, I repeat Eldridge just because he didn't expire is in my big 3. And then I also have Joswar Gonzalez, who was a stud international free agent signing last year and then just did nothing but hit. And one of the reasons why we knew Jesus Mate was going to be a big time is because down in the Dominican now, they have some of those stat track type of statistics that could tell your launch angle and your bat speed and all that sort of stuff. And Jesus blew those up. Joswar is made Jesus's numbers look like nothing. And so that's what's really impressive to me. It sounds like he's going to likely be skipped completely over the Arizona League and go straight to A-ball as a first-year stateside guy. That's always a nice thing. Unfortunately, that's also something they did with Marco Luciano, and then he flamed out. So let's just hope that we aren't looking at the same path. Last but not least, I have Bo Davidson, and Bo had a huge breakout year last year. One of the things I really like with him is he is going to be a guy that if he makes it, this is a really fun fantasy guy. Plus power, plus speed, plus defender. Problem is you can't steal first. And you can't hit the home run if you're swinging through. So if he can get the contact to where he's even hitting 220, you're talking about a guy who could be 220 with 2020, and that plays as your 3rd or 5th outfielder. But and the defense should have him on the field enough to get that. They do some good things in the international market, but right now they are hoping so much on development between Cal League and the majors that this system is just a scary thing. Chad brought up in the comments here that that we're likely going to feel different after this year, after their international folks get in, and then plus they have another chance to get more international. The Giants have been killing it in the international market. I'm not going to say that they haven't been. The issue is those players are all still in A-ball. And the Giants about 6 years ago had a tremendous A-ball group of Luis Matos and Marco Luciano and like just this whole list of guys, and none of them is produced. Their system did not allow them to get to where they needed to be. Now maybe Buster Posey puts in the money to help with the development so they get there. But so far that hasn't been the case for the Giants system.
Yeah, no. And I think it's a real shame because a few years ago they did have a nice system, and I think seeing fruits of their labor not only spoil us on the system but spoil us on the future as well. That I need to see something happen where they're able to actually develop talent, that they actually bring pitching and hitting up that are doing something at the major league levels. And the Marco Luciano flame out was especially tough to watch because there were a lot of people that were dreaming on Marco. So I like your big three. It looks like Robbie has the same first pick for you on the big thing, and that is Bryce Eldridge. Huge power bat at first base. Decent hit tool. Looks like he could be very comfortable as a major leaguer. So I'm interested to see if he's able to break in at all as a DH or spell like, isn't Devers playing first base now?
Yeah.
For San Francisco.
Yeah.
So Bryce has got some, and again, not to, knock San Francisco, but there's somebody blocking their elite prospect at a position with a lot of money and time left. And then he's got his second big three is Blade Tidwell, a right-handed pitcher that is going to be in the major leagues. What do you think of Tidwell? Give me your 2 cents on Tidwell, because him and the next guy, they're in my peripheral, but I don't know a ton about them. So
yeah,
give me 30.
Tidwell's one of those guys that if you told me tomorrow he was going to be their closer, I would be all on board, because I think this is strikeout stuff. It's a sharp slider and a sweeper, along with a mid-90s fastball that can touch higher than that. That's really fun, but he really struggles with consistency overall, and he's much more a control over command. Like, he can put it in the zone, but he sometimes misses the catcher's spot, which is when you have big-time stuff and you are missing your spot in the zone, a lot of times that ball leaves the yard or gets hit very hard. And so that has been what has bugged him so far. Like I said, if you put him in the bullpen and have that kind of stuff come out of the bullpen, I think this is a closer. But it's just a matter of we're waiting to see that isn't going to happen. They aren't going to make that decision after making the acquisition costs that they did to get him. They're going to try to see what they can maybe get out of him as a starter first.
Right. And then they have Robbie has Parks Harbor, first base, third base. He had to have come from college. He's 24 and he's in high A.
Yeah.
He's gotten a lot of buzz this offseason. He's really moved up charts due to, I think, because of some hype the last couple months. Do you have anything to talk about Parks?
The big thing that impressed me looking at him in Arizona, and again, take the number stuff with a grain of salt, but he has a very repeatable, smooth swing. And that was his knock coming out of college, is that he had some hitches to his swing, and he has really worked to iron those out. he's a third base, first base. I don't know if he sticks at third, unfortunately. I think if he was sticking at third, this guy'd be a lot more interesting for fantasy. At first, it requires a whole different level of hitting, and I don't know that he's got that bad. But I do like Harbor a lot. I think this is the type of guy that is going to succeed in the Giant system because he's kind of succeeding on his own, not necessarily needing their development. Like he's gone out and done the work on the swing stuff, gone to the places to get that training and all. So he's done that kind of work on his own. And I think that's going to unfortunately be what we have to watch for, are those type of players in this system.
Right. And I just acquired him this last weekend in some fab. He was still on a waiver wire in one of my 15-team dynasty teams, and I just saw that there was buzz on him. So that's glad to know I spent money on somebody who might be somebody. Maybe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's better than nothing, I suppose, So right. last year, my next three, and sad, I guess we're gonna repeat two of them. Rainer Arias, Dakota Jordan, and Jacob Bresnahan. And the guy who I won't repeat is actually the first one I'll mention here. That's Johnny Lavelle. He was their top signing in 2024 in the international market. Another really strong shortstop, but this guy is more defense than offense as far as his profile. One of those guys that, I mean, actually, this is a really interesting comparison to Cole Young. Really good contact guy, really good gap power that could potentially develop into more than that. Probably not a guy that'll steal 30 for you, but should get you double digits. But the defense should keep him on the field. And but again, he's an A-ball. He's still got to develop beyond A-ball. But what you've seen so far, and especially defensively, it's fun to watch. So that's the first one. Jacob Bresnahan. This is the type of guy that gives Robbie issues with his jeans fitting correctly because he's 6'6" lefty. And another thing, the Guardians like to do this. They'll draft a high upside high school arm, and everyone goes, oh, well, if the Guardians like him, then he must have something. And because the Guardians apparently know pitching, and so it's kind of like, who did the old adage, the Rays made a trade? Who'd they get? Oh, good. I like it for the Rays. Oh, who'd they get, though? Like, everyone assumes that they're going to develop whoever they get. He really had a big year this year with his control and his command on his fastball tick up to where it was this was a below average command guy coming into the year, and it was above average control and command on the fastball and the changeup. Now, he's worked with a couple different sliders. He's not yet found one that he can generate a ton of swing and miss with yet. He's gotten weak contact, but not really swing and miss. That's probably the next step. Just as he is right now, I'd probably say this is a back end starter, but if he can find a consistent breaking pitch, this is a guy that could very quickly be a mid rotation type of lefty. And those guys are pretty valuable. And last but not least is Dakota Jordan, which if you want to have some fun with sexy numbers in the minor leagues last year, I don't think people understand just how good of a year Dakota Jordan had last year in numbers. Now, granted, he was in the Cal League, and coming out of college, being in the Cal League is really not where you're supposed to be. You're supposed to be in high A, double A. And he was in the A-ball for a reason, but this is a guy who athletic enough to be in center field, legit plus power and plus speed, but just he's so much more athlete than he is baseball player right now. And he's still working on that this year, but when it works, you see what the numbers can be. And so if he was in, oh goodness, the Dodgers system, this would be a guy I'd be all over because you know that they would find a way to work with that athleticism and turn it into baseball skill. The Mariners have done this with a couple of guys. The Twins have done this well. They just can't keep those guys on the field. But that's certain systems I would be all over Dakota Jordan as a prospect. In the Giants system, I'm really worried about how he develops, unfortunately. But that's my next three.
Yeah, and I'm always baseball is so different than, I mean, you still have these examples in football and basketball, and I'm sure in hockey and any other sport where you just have somebody who's a ridiculous athlete that is also good at the sport.
Mm-hmm.
But I think in baseball, there is this thing where, like, David Wells was a pitcher for the Yankees and the Blue Jays and was awesome. David Wells had a body built by kegs. And
Yeah.
Right? Like John
Bartolo Colon, had a long career.
Right. And they were athletic. Like, I am not trying to say that big boys, thick boys are not athletic, but it's not like Tyler O'Neill, who shows up every year in the best shape of his life. And you're like, who the fuck is the Ken doll taking batting practice right now? Right? Like, Tyler O'Neill is great, but if Tyler O'Neill was a little bit chubbier and had 40 higher points in his batting average, he would be a household name. He wouldn't be
100%.
So, like, every time I hear that as a way to describe a player, like, oh man, he's so toolsy, he's so athletic, I'm immediately like, oh, so he can't play baseball. He just looks good in the uniform.
And Jordan was a legit, he went to Mississippi State to play both football and baseball. Like, so very high-end athlete, and decided to concentrate on baseball. Like I said, I think there's the talent there. It's just a whole lot of, you need an organization that can take that and really work those tools into skills. And there's a difference there. And for anyone who's been in prospecting a long time, that was a John Sickles thing. John Sickles, who he wrote for ESPN back when Rob Nyer was their main analyst as well. Way, way, way back when. And he kind of spun off into his own site, and that was one of his big things, is there's a difference between a tool and a skill. And a tool is you have the ability to do it. A skill is you have mastery of it in game.
Yep.
And that's the big difference.
100%. So we're going to go on to Robbie. Only has two next threes on his sheet.
It's on the other. It flips onto the next page. Is where his second one or third one is, and we haven't mentioned this guy, so that's probably a good one to mention too.
There we go. Well, his first two guys that he listed were Dakota Jordan and Johnny Level, and both of them on most prospect lists for San Francisco are actually some of their higher rated prospects. That there's a lot of people that like both of them. We talked about Dakota. Anything you want to add on Johnny?
Yeah, just what we were talking about earlier. He's big time defense.
Yep.
That was, my guy, the first guy we talked about on my next three. Is I love the defense, but A-ball, it's A-ball, and we got to see how he comes next year. He's going to be in that same environment that Michael Arroyo looked like a stud in this year. And then he got to AA, and Michael Arroyo showed that, hey, I still have some things I need to work on.
Yeah,
which, and that's up in your area. It's like that Everett, and that league generally has some hit and miss ballparks, but there's certain parks where you can really put up 80 numbers as a hitter.
I don't think
in that Northwest League.
I don't think that Everett part. I've always been kind of meh on Michael Arroyo. As much as I'm a Mariner fan, I think out of all of the prospects that have shine on them, he's the one that feels like he might do something better somewhere else. I've been out on him. I've never tried to acquire him in a dynasty league. I'm so sour on him. But you do have I saw not Nate Pearson, who was the catcher, Joey Bart. I saw Joey Bart hit a ball up in that in the Everett Stadium that I don't know if it's landed to this day. That was like 6 or 7 years ago. So there, maybe there is something to that being a hitting league. I never think of any of those coast teams as being hitting places, but it is kind of spread out. There's ballparks all over. So we have we've got Dakota Jordan, we've got Johnny Level, and then we have another 17-year-old shortstop. One of their big signings this year, Luis Hernandez.
And that's all we know about him. That's his name. He got the most money of anybody in the class, and we haven't seen him play an inning yet. So he will be in the DSL this year, most likely. I have actually heard some rumors that the Giants are impressed enough with him that they might start him in Arizona.
Really?
Rather than having him go through the Dominican. But then I've also heard an update that he hasn't come to the States yet, so probably not. Just saying, because if with the way things are with our immigration and work visa system, if he hasn't got that accomplished at this point, he's probably not going to show up here. That's just that is where it is.
It doesn't help that we have a new team running the TSA in this country. I don't want to get derailed. I promise I won't talk about that shit here. Just know I have a very strong opinion about that, but we're good. So yeah, no, I really hope that he's able to figure that out. I hope that they're able to get him over here because you're right. There's not a whole lot known about him. And if they're going to spend that much money, I want to see him. I want to know what all the hype is about. So we have those guys, and then I'm just going to go into the wedge players for Rob and the draft sleepers. I'm just going to get those out of the way. Wedge players are Carson Wisenhunt, left-hander, 25, already in the majors, and Jesus Rodriguez, catcher, 23, also already having some major league time. I'm really interested to see what case they're able to make for themselves this year. But I think that, again, the shine that we have on San Francisco's prospect system in their minor leagues, I'm not as excited about them being successful. Do you have anything upside that you want to talk about Wisenhunt or Rodriguez?
I've always thought at best Rodriguez is a backup profile, and the good news is I've always thought he was kind of your classic Dave Ross type of backup profile where he could be an offensive side and do enough defensively to continue being a backup catcher. And he's on a team with arguably the best defensive catcher in the game who hits 210. Patrick Bailey is a hell of a defensive catcher, but offensively leaves a lot to be desired. So if Rodriguez can even be, if he can be a high end, like I said, go back into that Ross sort of mentality. If he can be a guy who's putting up solid stats, he's going to get 2 starts a week. And that's something to keep an eye on. Probably still not rosterable. I'm not sure what the hell Wisenhunt is. And I haven't been for 3 years with him. He had jumped up in my radar and then has just kind of been that guy ever since. He got up with holy crap stuff, but can't locate it consistently. And he's never found that consistent location. And that screams bullpen, but they haven't committed to him in the bullpen either. And I don't know what to do with him is my evaluation.
I think that you are in the same boat as the front office of San Francisco. Because he's probably their starting pitcher 7 or 8. Like he's long relief. Like he's not for our fantasy game. I don't think that he's exciting. I'm sure Robbie, if you end up watching this after we record this, you are totally allowed to at me in my text messages or on socials. I know I'm totally just not doing you justice with the way that you give these players. Speaking of players that you also talked about that I have no consideration or care for, we've got your draft sleepers. Another catcher. God,
yeah, 2 catchers from Robbie.
You are catching all day long, catching strays from me and putting catchers on the draft sheet. So we've got Rod Barajas, who has not debuted. He was drafted in the 11th round this last year, and again, also not debuted. Reed Worley, a right-handed pitcher, 19 in the 9th round. Again, the Giants don't have the greatest system, and so when you look at these players, they're not even on most people's top 100, top 150, top 200 lists. You got anything you want to say about them before you get into your wedge players and draft sleepers?
I looked strong at Worley to possibly use. Worley is if Worley would have been 18 at the draft instead of 19, I think he goes 4 rounds earlier. It's one of those where you're already 19, and this year he's going to make his pro debut, and he's going to be 20. I think that there's some significant where teams back off of that because they don't get to put their stamp on him as much, which maybe that's a good thing for the Giants. But he's got really good raw stuff. I mean, this is a guy who has the physical body to fill into something more as a pitcher, but is a kind of a low 90s with has shown a slider, has shown a curve, has shown a changeup, but doesn't really have anything else that makes you excited, sort of high school arm. So he's signed for 3rd round money. I think that's about what he was, as a 3rd or 4th round type of talent, in that he had shown consistent delivery and command and has the body to add some velocity, but would need some work to do that and needs to find some secondary stuff to pop. So for mine here, I have some names to know. I have the one he had mentioned, Tidwell, but I also have Kiner Martinez, who was a late signee out of Venezuela, as in he was 18 when he signed, one of those really old guys that they sign out of Latin America, rather than getting a contract with them when they're 13. And yes, Wander, we know. But the big step, he took a monstrous step forward this last year by basically figuring out his breaking pitch. Martinez had a mid-90s fastball, and that was pretty much all he has. It has some nice movement to it, but he came up with a sweeper, changed his slider into a sweeper, and all of a sudden he just dominated the Arizona Complex League this last year. Hasn't seen full season ball, hasn't seen more patient hitters. We'll see what that turns into as he keeps going. Draftees, I don't know. Gavin Kylan I don't like as much as I should, but 13th overall pick, and I don't understand why he was picked that high. One of those guys who's, to me, he feels, you remember Will Wilson, who was drafted, we're talking, he was with the Angels and Giants about 5-6 years ago.
Yep.
Was drafted and was a really high floor sort of guy. Not a whole lot of ceiling to him. And lo and behold, he got up to AAA, and I don't know, he might have even made a major league debut, but never really got any of that ceiling stuff. He just kind of was there.
Right.
I think that's a lot of what you get with Gavin Kylan. The guy who's interesting to me is Cam Maldonado. They drafted him in the 7th round. He went to Northeastern, which is where Mike Sirota, who's with the Dodgers, went. And they were actually in the outfield together for a year, which is interesting because Maldonado has a very similar profile in that he could probably be a Gold Glove center fielder. So having those two guys in the outfield covering together on a college team at a small school, pitchers had to love that. But this is a guy, strong power, really, really fast, like double plus, like 70 grade speed on Maldonado. But defense should allow him to keep moving. He's going to need to work on his patience, like very good contact tool, but he swings at everything. And so he's going to have to be able to lay off of stuff and understand what is the best pitch to hit in an at-bat rather than hitting the first pitch that I can handle in an at-bat. but just an interesting guy because of the defensive ability, because of the speed. He could make his way up to the upper minors, and then if the Giants have done some overhaul in their development, he could potentially turn into a very strong center field candidate. But they need to develop that hit tool. They need to help him develop to access that raw power more consistently. But just like Sirota went into his draft year, was considered to be a lock for the first round, and then had kind of a ho-hum year. Maldonado did the same thing last year. Came in and everyone's going, oh, this is probably a second, third round pick, and fell back to the 7th round because he kind of had a ho-hum year in his last year of college. So one of those guys that could jump into our consciousness because he plays like the guy he was expected to be. And that's not a 7th round pick. And so then suddenly everyone's going to go, oh, well, then now he's suddenly a top 10 Giants prospect. Well, okay, great. He's a top 10 Giants prospect, but what does that really mean?
He's still not in the top 200 overall.
Yes.
So I'm going to hate to do this to everybody. So Monday is a busy day for us at Palazzo. Mike Govier is going to be on in a half hour. We have 30 minutes, actually 28 and a half, 29 minutes to go over the other two teams. And so, Ben, I'm going to apologize to you right now. I'm going to be driving the whip. I'm going to be like,
okay,
next. And sorry, guys. Like, I see everybody's here. I see everybody's got eyes on us. It is what it is.
Rangers are a good system to whip through. We
can
do that in a dang hurry, I think.
We're going to do the Rangers, and I'm going to talk. I'm just going to go through Robbie's, and then we'll go through yours. Yep. And I'll say next if we need to move to the next one. So his big three that he's got this year are Sebastian Wolcott, who survived all the trades for the Rangers this year, Jose Corniel, and Winston Santos. I keep waiting to see Sebastian Wolcott. He keeps getting threatened to be in the major leagues, and I'm excited to see that kid rake. He plays. He's good enough on defense. He will have a defensive position either at short or third base. And I think that kid is. There's a reason that the Texas Rangers have not traded him and traded everybody else that they could.
Unfortunately, we won't get to see him until August at the soonest because of Tommy John. So
no, very sad about that, but I'm going to hold on to that name. I really like him. And then Robbie has two AA pitchers, both right-handers, both J1 signings back in 19 who have come up through the system, and that's Jose Corniel and Winston Santos. Very interesting names, and in an organization that now has a very pitching-friendly major league park and seems to be doing something with their pitching development. I think those are very fun names to pay attention.
Yeah.
Who are your big three?
So
and we don't even need to go over 25, unfortunately. Let's just hit your 26.
Yeah, nope. I have Walcott, and I just, we'll see where he's at come August if he is. But even if he isn't able to do a whole lot this year, he'll only be 21 next year.
Mm-hmm.
So just to remember that he'll spend all of next year in the upper minors at 21. So he's certainly not falling behind. I have Caden Scarborough. He was a two-sport athlete. He was recruited heavily in basketball as well as baseball and was drafted in the 6th round in 23. Completely broke out last year. This guy's just got the stud stuff. Mid-90s fastball, comes from a low release, so it kind of comes up on a hitter rather than down like a normal trajectory, and really can command his sweeper. The fastball and sweeper he commands well. Has flirted with a couple of different ideas for 3rd and 4th pitches, but they're more control over command with him right now. And then my last one I have on here from my bigs is Corniel. Did you know that he was a Mariner that was traded to the Rangers?
Who? Which one?
Corniel. Jose Corniel.
No, I missed him as a Mariner.
Yeah, he was traded in 2020 to the Rangers, and I don't even honestly know who the heck that. I didn't put in here what that trade was, but he he ended up having surgery. He was having a breakout in 24, had surgery. This is a guy who's more depth of pitches and control over elite raw stuff, but he's also the type of guy that pitches in 93 to 95, and when they put him in the bullpen last year for a short time in the majors, was throwing 96 to 98. So one of those guys where if you take away 3 pitches out of his 6 pitches that he uses, maybe he suddenly is a really useful reliever. But certainly the perfect type of guy to sit in AAA as your fill-in 5th starter, because it sounds like Rocker got that 5th starter job. So, so then my next, I have one that actually that he had on was Winston Santos. I worry that this is a future reliever just because it's heavily fastball and changeup, and it's hard to be a really good starter unless you have something that breaks. But Fernando Rodney has shown us that a guy with a fastball and change that can locate it can have a pretty long career in the bullpen. Josh Owens is my second next, and he is a guy who was drafted in the 3rd round, but he was a hardcore athlete, 2-way player, drafted as a 2-way player that can throw 2 pitches, hit the upper 90s with his fastball and has a really fun breaking pitch. But he also is one of those guys that has probably 55 to 60 power and speed and can play shortstop defense. So where he gets developed is going to be very interesting. I would not expect that you'll see him. You might not even see him outside of A-ball this year. Like, he very likely is going to be in the complex league for most of the year and might get a dose of A-ball at the very end of the year. And my last guy is kind of a high floor sort of guy, Dylan Dreiling. 2nd round pick in 24. He was at Tennessee. Kind of like those Tennessee outfielders, they really seem to struggle adjusting to pro ball. And so he struggled last year, but the numbers underneath it were really good. Excellent exit velocity, good swing decisions, all those sorts of things. But he had a BABIP that just was kind of crazy low. Defensively, he's definitely a left fielder, and ticked up in the AFL with his walk rate. And one of the better at bats I saw of him was against Hagen Smith, where he just spit on shit slider after shit slider, which, if you know, Hagen Smith doesn't know how to put a slider in the strike zone, but they look so damn good that a lot of guys swing on them. And he just kept spitting on them. And so that was impressive. That's something that he struggled to do for a lot of last year. If he can continue that, you're probably looking at like a 250-ish hitter with double-digit homers and steals and can play left. Probably a platoon type of bat, but those type of guys can end up being kind of valuable in fantasy.
They can. Robbie's next 3 were Caden Scarborough, who you mentioned is one of your big 3, and then he's got Cameron Cawley and AJ Russell. Cameron Cawley was a 3rd round pick in 21, and he's really had an interesting development curve in the last couple of years. He's really started to hit the ball, show out defensively. He can play infield, he can play outfield, and he's at a really good age, 23, he should be mature enough. He's not young. He's age appropriate, but he's no longer like a kid. He's not a teenager. He's not 20. And then AJ Russell, who was their 2nd round pick, handed pitcher. Really interested to see what he does this season, again, in a really good organization. We have Robbie's wedge player, who is Justin Foscue, who had tons of prospect shine. He's been on prospect lists for years. He was a 20th round, 2020 1st round pick. Yeah. He's been at AAA. Justin Foscue could, if Josh Smith and if a number of players don't perform. I would have loved to have heard Robbie's explanation for Justin Foscue. He's Canadian. I don't know. And then we have 2 draft sleepers. We've got Owen Proksch and Jay McQueen. Proksch is a left-handed pitcher, 22. He's an A-ball. He was a 9th round pick. last year. I am sure that he is like 7'3" and throws 40 miles an hour. And again, Robbie can't go to the front of the class to answer math questions when he watches Owen pitch. And then we've got Jay McQueen, who is a 19-year-old outfielder, 20th round. So probably got him out of high school.
Son of Steve, right?
Yeah, and I'm sure that he is somebody who we can keep our tabs on. Maybe not pick him up in a dynasty league, but that's somebody that you want to be aware of what he does this season. You've got 3 minutes to do your wedge players and draft sleepers. So when I say next, we're going Kansas City.
So I have Emilio Teodo, his head injuries, but big time raw stuff. And they finally have moved him into the bullpen. I've always thought that this guy is going to be an elite freaking closer, and they finally moved him into the bullpen.
He struggled with that move to the bullpen the last couple of years. I am hoping he gets some of that shit out of his head that's preventing him from being his best self. I'm all in on Teodo still. Like, he is one of my favorite fringe prospects to still roster in some of my dynasty leagues.
I think he has, part of it is they keep moving him mid-season. They start him as a starter and then he moves mid-season. Having the offseason to prepare as a reliever, I think is going to be so beneficial for him. I also have Malcolm Moore on here, big time offensive catcher, and the offense was a big issue. that doesn't usually help when you're a fringe defensive catcher and you need your offense and you don't hit. That's kind of a problem.
Every time.
So that's where he is. The guy I have on here for my draft guy, Jack Wheeler, stud athlete who was a college guy or had college offers for basketball, football, and could have been a guy to go two ways in baseball for colleges. So this is a holy crap athlete. Big raw stuff from the mound, but he was drafted as a position player only. So he's going to be really a slow mover. They're moving him to the outfield from third base. And if he can make it, this is a guy who could have some really fun power speed numbers. But I bet you this is a really slow burn sort of guy that will all of a sudden will jump on us in 27 or 28.
Yep. I like that. Hey, we came in a minute early, and this is
we can do it. But now we got a really fun system, and we got to hurry through it.
Yeah, and I'm looking at this, and he has 3 catchers on this list. Robbie, I thought you didn't like catchers. You're killing me, son. You're killing me, Smalls.
It's hard not to on this team. Though.
I know. Well, okay, so Robbie's big 3, and I don't think anybody's going to argue with his first 2. They're both catchers. We've got Carter Jensen and Blake Mitchell. Carter Jensen, who was drafted in the 23 draft in the first round, or Carter Jensen was drafted in 21 in the third round, and Blake Mitchell, who was drafted in 23 in the first round. If you don't know who Carter Jensen is by now, I'm not going to, anything I say to you is just like talking to whatever. And it almost goes the same with Blake Mitchell, that there was a time when Blake Mitchell got drafted in 23 that I think some people were curious about. Well, you already have Carter Jensen. Is there something wrong? Like, they both are great catchers. Carter Jensen has a proven hit tool, or at least a little bit more proven than Blake Mitchell's, but it wouldn't surprise me if Blake Mitchell rakes. There's not a real good position to put him out unless he can play outfield, because first base is obviously taken there. And I don't know if he has the chops to play third or second, but you never know. And then the last player that he has is Luinder Avila, right-handed pitcher, 24 years old, already in the majors. He is a 2018 international 2018 international signing. And I think this just goes to, like, he was drafted 8 years ago, now we're talking about him. And so I'm curious if you want to talk about Avila for 30 seconds and then go into your big 3.
I don't have a whole lot on Avila. I think it's reliever only, but that said, it's a reliever that should be there this year. And you kind of have Carlos Estevez, you have Matt Strom, and you have Lucas Ursig, and then a whole lot of however they want to throw the rest of that bullpen together. And Avila could absolutely step into one of those roles.
Well, and they're talking about I think if he opens the year in Omaha this year, is he still on the team? Did he make the major league roster?
I honestly don't know on him. I can't say.
Because if he's in Omaha, which I'm pretty sure he is, I don't think I heard about him making the team. I think he'll open the year in Omaha starting rotation.
Yeah. Yep.
So
I think he's still a good minor league starter, but he just one of those guys who it takes a special guy to be able to do it as a starter with 2 dominant pitches.
That's right. So who are your big 3? Go for it.
My big 3, I actually don't have Mitchell in mind, and we'll get to that in a second. Jensen, the biggest thing I see here is there's some issues with his receiving and framing, but mostly with his receiving, and now with the with ABS, he struggled in AAA with receiving on that. Not that you need to be able to be in a really good spot to allow your pitcher to get every call, because you only get to challenge so many. And that's a big part of it. And I could see if one of these 2 guys moves off of catcher, it's potentially Jensen, but it might be 2-3 years down the road. We might be looking at like a Craig Biggio thing.
Well, and
a couple years down, he's moving.
Right. But it doesn't hurt that he's in the majors with Sal Perez, who I consider to be one of my favorite catchers of all time. Like, he's just that old man strength, old man knowledge, and
Sal was a below average catcher when he got to the majors, made himself into frankly, an elite defensive catcher. And obviously, as age is caught up now, his skills are not where they were, but certainly could help him with how to become a better catcher. My next one is, I am amazed is not mentioned at all by Robbie, but that is Kendry Churio.
Yeah.
Dude, holy crap. This is a fun, if you have an opportunity to go on YouTube and find video of him pitching, it will make your day. Or you'll need some extra towels. But regardless, this is a guy who has potentially 4+ pitches right now, 2 very distinct fastballs, a change, and a curve that are all just sexy as hell to watch. But the best part is he's friggin' 19 and he spots them. I mean, he spots them in the zone.
He's not only got pitches, he fanned 63 batters last year in 51 innings, so that's 11 Ks per 9. He posted a whip under 1.
Yeah.
He throws 95. Like, that kid, I was surprised he wasn't on that list. Kendry Churio is fun.
The Royals have look at the Royals rotation other than Reagan's, and that's basically what they have in their system, is a whole bunch of guys who are solid starters, but not really upside starters. You know what I mean? Not like big strikeouts guys.
I would push back on Chris Bubich a little bit.
Okay, yeah, I'll give you that. I'll give you that.
But they have people like Seth Lugo, who's phenomenal, but you would never think of him as a high K pitcher.
And that's most of their system. And then you get a Churio, who's just like this outlier pitcher in their system. But then the other guy that I'm going to mention is kind of one of those. I have on here that Churio could be like a 1B type of starter. I don't know if he needs another pitch to be that true 1A ace, but even if he's the 1B guy, that's a hell of a 1B to have. David Shields was a high school guy that they got. He reclassified into the 24 draft. He should have been in the 25 draft. So he's more of a control over stuff guy right now. But as a high schooler, I would not be surprised at all if he ends up spending a lot of this year in AA. And he's 2 years removed from being drafted as a high school lefty. And I compare him very similar to Ranger Suarez. A lot of the throw a lot of junk, but locate the crap out of all of it. And that can work. And especially that can work in Kansas City with the high-end defense. So that's my big 3. If we want to kick into the next right away, I'll mention Blake because he's at the very top of mine. Blake Mitchell. Injuries are the biggest thing for him. Defensively, he is considered elite when he's healthy. and that's the problem, is he's not been healthy to show it. But one of those guys that has the big arm, can really move behind the plate, but that he's been slowed because of that. If he can come back, and that's the biggest thing, is he's got to be able to show that he can handle it behind the plate physically. But this is a power and speed guy. If he can get back, could be an interesting guy either way. I also have Sean Gamble, who is a guy that they drafted. This is kind of an athlete over baseball player right now, but has played very well up the middle, both at second and at center field. Could be a very interesting guy just to watch. Somebody reminded me that he told me that he looks a lot like Mikhail Garcia did when Garcia was down at that level.
Wow, that's high.
Big time athlete. Garcia was a big time athlete, and finally in the majors has figured out how to be a baseball player. He got to the majors still as an athlete.
Okay, you're talking about an exception to the rule. I will say about he has a hit tool. They already like his bat. So
yes, and that's kind of where Garcia was too. Is really big speed, makes a lot of contact. Doesn't always lay off of pitches. Like, he knows he can make contact, and so he swings at a lot of things and has to develop that walk tool. Well, look at what Garcia did last year. He finally figured out how to take a walk, and Jesus, he had a hell of a year. Anyway, Drew Beam is my last guy. This is your typical college lefty, low 90s fastball, pounds the strike zone with a bunch of stuff. He fits kind of what the Royals have in their system a lot of, and I like him a lot for that reason, that they seem to know how to develop this guy well. So when guys like Seth Lugo have their contract run out, the Royals could save a lot of money by having guys like this to step in for what they already like to do defensively and with the rotation.
Yep. So Robbie's big three are Davis Shield and Sean Gamble, who we already talked about. Mm-hmm. And then Freddie Contreras, who was an international signing this year. And he is at the bottom, if not on most prospect lists for them. So again, Robbie, I'm totally letting you down. I have no fucking idea why you have Freddie Contreras up here, other than he must be like 6'7" and little bit of a gut and like legs the size of tree trunks and just throws fire. I'd be real curious about what you think about him. We have some wedge players. We've got Max Martin, who's a right-handed pitcher in high A, and the next catcher, Ramon Ramirez, who was international signing 3 years ago in 23. Max Martin. I don't have a whole lot to say about Max Martin, nor do I have a whole lot to say about Ramon Ramirez. So why don't you go into your wedge players? Oh, Ramon Ramirez is he's at least an interesting catcher in their system. He's right behind Blake Mitchell as far as their catching prospects go. So maybe Robbie knows something about him. He looks good when he's framing pitches.
So I have Ramirez as a wedge player and really freaking like his arm, but he is filled out a lot. And so I'm not sure how much he's going to stick behind the plate. But he's kind of a smaller, like a shorter frame. And the guy who I immediately thought of when watching him was Moises Ballesteros, and makes really good.
That
not quite that fat, but I mean, he's filled out into the shoulders a lot. He's filled out into the trunk a lot.
No, he's got a bat like Moises.
Oh, bat, yeah, like power bat for sure. The contact bat isn't quite at that same level, but it's the power is definitely there, and so. If he can handle that, I'm guessing he's going to get a little time in AA this year. By the end of the year, that would be interesting to see how he handles and how he shows against bigger pitching like that.
Okay.
I also have Carson Roccaforte,
Okay.
elite center fielder defender. Took steps forward on offense last year, but probably took step forwards to being a fourth outfielder. Big time defender, probably going to profile as a fourth outfielder. Draft guy I have on here, Josh Hammond, who's just kind of a lot of folks know who Josh Hammond. He was their competitive balance pick. He was a two-way guy that they're sticking on the infield, and I don't know where he ends up. There's a lot of arm there that might work better at third.
Could be the outfield as well.
And he's got some raw power, but it's just a matter of he's got to build up the pitch recognition is really where he's got to go. But I also have on here Tyson Moran, who's someone that they signed in the 13th round, and Robbie would have liked. He's a Canadian. But
Canada.
He's also was a North Dakota State recruit. And so I got to talk with someone locally who was on him because he was going to go to North Dakota State, who was planning to get to see him. And he said that he was a 30 present power and a 65 future power. So, which kind of tells you the difference between where this guy is and where he could be, that this particular scout saw. And so it'll be interesting to see. This is probably going to be a while before we have to worry about him, and even in the upper minors, but this could be a legit big time power or third baseman if he can develop it.
Okay. We've got Robbie's draft players, and I'm just gonna read their names for you. Go ahead and look up Grayson Bowles, right-handed pitcher, 18th round pick this year. Hunter Alberini, another right-handed pitcher, looks like out of college, 11th round. Grayson is out of high school, he's 18. And then Luke Nowak, an outfielder, 19 years old. He was a 17th round pick. All three of those players are prospects that I've never heard of. So I'm sure
the
Robbie
Royals this year in the draft did what the Brewers have been doing for a lot of years, where they went high after older college in the second half of the top 10 picks. So your 5th through 10th round, you get a lot of college guys that you can sign for fairly cheap. And then you pump that money into high school kids that are still on the board in the third day of the draft, the 11th through 20th rounds. And so there's a lot of guys here that are high upside type of guys, but long ways to go. So far for the Brewers, a couple of those guys have turned out, but mostly they've been really nice trade pickups or trade fillers, because they'll come into the minors, they'll show some of that talent, and then they can trade them off in a deal as a third piece of a deal.
Well, Ben, this feels anticlimactic. It's 6:30 and we've got roughly a couple more minutes, but I wanted to give you a time. You mentioned earlier, this is your 6th year of doing this, doing prospects in the preseason, doing things with the Palazzo podcast, 4 years with this format, the last 2 with Robbie. This one has featured me a little bit more.
Yeah.
Do you have any, now that we're going to be moving into in-season things, do you, one or two parting shots from this season of Big Three, Next Three? Is there any names that you heard that you wish that you had mentioned or saw do things like what give me something, give the people a nugget?
I think talking about the Mets really got me to you need to trust your gut. Sometimes prospect development is not linear. I thought Carson Bench and Nolan McLean were exceptional talents, but I thought that both of them being in their first full year as a hitter or as a pitcher were going to take some lumps, and it was going to be a slow developing year. So I didn't have either one of them on my Big Three. And they were by far one of the 3 best prospects in that system, and they've both shown it. Trust your gut on stuff. And that's the biggest thing I can tell you. When it comes to prospecting, especially in dynasty leagues, we're going to make errors. You're going to make a crap ton of errors. Trust your gut, pick somebody and be okay and go, yeah, there we go. I was just going to say exactly this. Joe just said it. Numbers lie. Joe, you need to go back and watch the start of this because we covered 50 minutes of Giants talk. So
we did. We really did.
So, and Robbie said, yes, this is the third year now. So with him, Robbie apparently just got done and wanted to talk to pipe in, but this is, in prospecting, we make a lot of assumptions because of prospects. We make a lot, we watch numbers and we go, oh, this guy's going to be a stud. And then we realize that he did that playing in the California League, or, that this pitcher is going to be a stud. And then you realize that, oh crap, he did that down in the Florida League where, pitchers can look a whole lot better. It just there's a lot of context to things, and taking the time to read, we're still going to get it wrong. There's still going to be guys that pop up that are 26, that are Mike Yastrzemski, and they come up at 26, 27, and they have a 10-year major league career after that. And you're like, well, what the hell? Where did this guy come from? That's prospecting. And we can think that we know all the stuff we want to think, but it's still going to blow up in our face at some point here. So, but I'm looking forward to getting back with Robbie next week and talking about where guys got assigned.
Way smarter than me. Way smarter than me.
And we can talk about where guys have been assigned and enjoy that conversation, because that means there's going to be actual baseball games played. That is very happy.
Into sleeps. I wanna echo what Ben said, and that is that the whole point for me, I don't want to yuck anybody's yum or play the game for anybody else, but the whole point of dynasty baseball, the whole point of prospecting for me is that you get to dream on things, you get to see things, and it's for you. Listen to what we say or don't. You could literally go into each one of these and be like, everybody that they say, I'm going to take somebody different. You might not be wrong. Every year we do the big three that they were going over their 25s and they were like, yeah, he was one of my big three last year. We're not going to talk about him at all. He's not even playing baseball. Yeah. So, shit gets real quick, fast, in a hurry. Things happen, and enjoy it. So, and be ready to pivot. Ready to pivot.
We will have minor league games this week. Friday is opening day for AAA.
I know. Pretty soon we get to go to high A games in Everett. I can't wait.
Yeah.
It has been an honor and a pleasure to be here as a host a couple times this year. I think I made 6 or 7 shows. So I really enjoyed myself. I enjoyed everybody's comments. I enjoyed getting to be here and share this time with all of you. I hope that you enjoyed us. Like I said at the beginning, and it was no bullshit, we are just here to entertain and serve. This is a passion of love for us, and we just love being there for you. So for my man, Big Gentle Ben Chase, my name is Sam Wirsching. We're here with the Palazzo Podcast. This is our last for 2026. Big 3 next 3. Peace and love.
Carlos Delgado.
Excellent choice. Too bad I got him 3 rounds ago.
You're still on the clock.
Oh, shit!
You gotta do something.
We need a name. Hideki Matsui.
You just took my whole outfield. Sorry, Charlie.
What is this?
Debbie.
What the fuck is this?
It's our fantasy baseball draft. We said no wives.
Your fantasy what?
It's our draft. For fantasy baseball. I told you all about this. Got Matsui.